my second point is this idea that he has that what was I going to say, that the U.S. is actually the how do I start this without pissing a lot of people off? Okay, from a person outside of Asia, outside of the West, Europe, US, North South America, and Australia, people that is living in, for example, Russia, China, India, Southeast Asia. When somebody from the West says you are not a threat to the rest of us, all we do is we look on a map and what do we see? We see Europe, 2 continents, North South America, 3 continents, Australia, that have been invaded, genocided, and killed and infested with Europeans. Africa, a continent that has been colonized by Europeans, and the 3 remaining holdouts, which is India, which was colonized, China, which kind of was colonized, but they kind of fought it off, and Russia, which was invaded like 3 or 4 times in the past and never got. So these are the original civilizations left: India, China, and Russia, right? That are still holding out. And from a person that's living outside the West, we see this as a continuation of hundreds of years of Europeans trying to take over the whole globe.
Well, let me make one point about that, because Russia is also part of the European expansion, or the expansion of, we could say, white people around the world. Russia did expand into the steppes. And I mean, if you look at Russia 500 years ago, it was not, in fact, they were a subject of the Mongols, right? And then they went and they expanded most of the space of the old Mongol Empire. And more recently is when they expanded into the regions of Central Asia. And the broader point there, which is that at the end of the day, states are not people. Okay, this is not Mean Girls, right? These are states. There is no law above states. The states are higher than religion. They are higher than every armed force. Okay, there is nothing higher than the state. Everyone is an asshole when you are a state. Everybody is an asshole to everybody, and that is the law of the world, right? It's all about power and nothing else. So when going back and forth, oh, Americans are so rude to Russians, and Russians are so scared of America, and Europe really likes the values of, it's all bullshit. Okay, at the end of the day, it's about who has the power to impose their will on the other countries in this world, and that's what's happening. That's all that's happening, and I think we really got to stop talking about this like we're watching the Kardashians, because we are not. We're watching geopolitics.
No, but people under these countries are not responsible for what their states are doing. For example, you cannot go to an American and say you're a genocidal asshole, because the guy didn't kill anybody. The responsibility needs to die with the individual. It needs to be taken on by the individual.
Tell it to the Black Lives Matter in America. That, they're blaming me for genociding their people.
And I think they should. Right?
Yeah, it's an internal matter.
I think someone owns the responsibility of his own history, of his country. If you are part of a nation, you have a responsibility about the sins of the nation. You cannot say, French, I was not here. Yes, so I'm guilty of colonization. I'm guilty of slavery.
How many people have colonized? How many people have been killed by French colonists? Thousands.
A lot. And I have to accept that it's a part of my history.
Yeah, but you're not guilty. I can't throw you in prison. I can't trial you in a court of law.
No, of course not. But I have the duty to not forget about these sins. Okay?
You can
not be responsible. You're not responsible for things that happen in the past.
It's a part of me.
Well, you have to accept it, but you can't impose that on someone else who doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
You can accept it all, but you're not going to impose that on me. I'm not going to allow it.
Yep.
Avoiding committing the mistakes of others is not the same thing as being responsible for the sins of others.
Not responsible, but the sin is on you too, because you are part of the nation.
No. That's your belief, but you're not going to impose
it on me. I believe.
Not without a damn fight. That's for damn sure.
A nation is totally abstract.
Well,
a nation is a super abstract concept. You can't impose it on the population, unless there's a general support of what the nation did. Like, for example, in Ukraine, when they all celebrate Bandera, they're supporting the atrocities of the past. Or if in France, they would all celebrate when they defeated the African armies and colonized them, and if France would celebrate, the individuals that celebrate, exactly, totally. So yeah, we have the responsibility of learning from the sins of others, but we don't have the responsibility of the sins of others. Okay?
Well, that's a very loaded topic in itself to talk about. And I think that would be like a whole long form conversation about the nation versus the state, because those do have, in my opinion, well, at least in the US, concrete definitions when we studied from an academic lens.
State and a nation are not synonymous, so anyone with half a brain gets that, right? I mean, how many nations are there within the United States and Canada? I mean, every quote-unquote indigenous or Amerindian tribe is its own nation, yet it exists within the state.
Yeah.
So a state and the nation are not synonymous. They can be, but not always. Certainly not in the United States.
And then, too, to touch on the second point, because I don't want to flesh it out too much, but you talked about individualism versus collectivism. Depending on the culture that you ascertain to, you will live life through a collectivist lens or through an individualistic lens. So when we say that I do not believe that I am responsible for the sins of my nation, other nations may feel differently about that, and in turn feel they are responsible for their nation, i.e., you could make the case for Han Chinese people. They feel that they are responsible for each other, or even in a lot of Asian cultures, right? You will see that with Japanese culture has heavily, had that historical precedence of, quite frankly, if your son embarrasses you in public, then your whole family pays for it. So I think it's an important point to highlight that it depends what nation or culture that you're engaging, to keep that in mind. I think it will serve in your best interest to do that, versus saying what should and shouldn't be like if you are traveling in the future.
Well, I've said my piece, so I'm gonna peace out. See you.
See you, Drew.
Thank you. Great to see you.